Let's talk about trafficking as an overall issue. So Washington State is particularly bad because we have geological issue, like we've got mountains, we've got the ocean, we've got an international border, we've got ports and airports. What is it in your experience about Washington State that makes trafficking a problem?
You know, some of the things in Washington State that really makes it a problem is that we are on the I-5 corridor. And, you know, that runs all the way from Canada pretty much down into Mexico. And if you look at the National Human Trafficking Hotline data and their heat sink map, the entire corridor down the whole West Coast with a population, high density population in red, the whole coast is on fire. Mm-hmm. But when you look at like the Seattle, Tacoma, South Sound area, there's a high density. Not only does Seattle have ports, Tacoma has ports, we have a port here in Olympia. We also have to look at, you know, vulnerability and how that plays into the rising numbers of people that are falling into exploitation. And so Seattle has quite a bit of services. I talked to somebody yesterday, they said they are over capacity. I know that this is an area that has been targeted to bring people from other states as well. And so my answer to you is 100% yes, Washington State is a hotspot for human trafficking, both labor and sex.
And I want to talk about exactly how big the problem of trafficking is, because I think when people think about an issue, they think of kind of that maybe interstate, but maybe even in the country. But this is really a problem that is a nationwide, spans countries, spans continent. So I'm wondering if you could just give me a better idea of the scope of the issue of trafficking.
From a global perspective, human trafficking is a $150.2 billion a year criminal enterprise. It is the second leading criminal organized activity. Drug dealing is number one. Trafficking of people is number two. And a lot of people ask, you know, why is that? And to be quite honest, it's because you sell the drugs once and they're gone and you need to go and get more drugs to sell. But with a human being, they're a reusable commodity and you are able to sell them over and over and over again. And you also have to look that historically, throughout the nation, honestly, prosecution rates have been low. And we are seeing a lot more gangs and organized crime moving more in the direction of trafficking individuals. And we are seeing that here locally. We are doing between 4 and 6 intakes per day within the Olympia area.
And that was why, with they're playing a role in it, that's just one small part of why getting a conviction or getting justice in a case can be difficult for someone. But we were talking before this about there's so many different ways in which someone may not want to come forward right away or talk about what happened to them. Can we talk a little bit about that?
You know, honestly, most victims do not think that they are victims. I have lived experience myself, and I thought that I was forced to do things that I didn't want to do in a domestic violence relationship. In 2000, when the Trafficking Victim Protection Act came out, it was the first time that prostitution by force was considered trafficking, and that changed my life. It took shame and guilt away from me, and I knew that it wasn't my fault. I was trafficked at a young age, and really struggled through life up until my early 30s. And in my early 30s, I was able to get completely out of the industry, and also my clean and sober 24-year date was April 11th, and that was also my last day in any type of exploitation situation. And from that time period, I just, after knowing that I was a victim, and the TVPA coming out, Trafficking Victim Protection Act, I just knocked on doors, and I started going out, and I built curriculum for training that wasn't just my story. It was, missed opportunities for identification. Times that I came in contact with law enforcement, and how to recognize the signs of that, and started building trainings around that, and was doing that locally. And then I was able to get the attention of the federal government, several different branches, and became a training and technical assistance advisor for them. And so I'm like 10 years into like this national work, and I'm driving around my own backyard, and I am seeing what is going on. And I honestly would equate it to a mini Tenderloin in San Francisco. And I'm not sure if you know what the Tenderloin in San Francisco is, but it is San Francisco concentrated all of their services in one area. And so we have a huge area that has the homeless population, those that are suffering with mental health, and that, drug addiction. And so when I'm driving around here, I'm seeing vulnerable people, and I'm thinking to myself, well, I'm supposed to be in Milwaukee next week. I don't have time for this. And it just was heavy on my heart. And I kept pushing it away. And I finally made a decision. This is my calling. I mean, how can I do something on a national level and not do something in my own backyard? And so I took some of my consulting money, and I went and I bought jackets and blankets and a whole bunch of food from Costco. And I had like a little survey. And so I just went out to an area that's pretty populated with our vulnerable individuals in our area. And I just opened my trunk. I started talking about who I was, what I was trying to do. My little surveys were around need, and before I knew it, I had a line longer to talk to me than a line that wanted the free items, because they were crying and they were telling me exactly what is happening. And I knew right then that I had to start an organization. And I applied for my 501c3, received my 501c3, was very, very blessed with a foundation that's actually Warren Buffett's youngest son, that I had worked on a project called thelifestory.org with him, and they were our first funder. And we joined the Family Justice Center in 2017. And fast forward to today, we're at a staff of 15, and we are doing absolutely amazing work.
The individuals that can experience something like this really can be anyone.
Anyone.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
You know, honestly, I call human trafficking a equal opportunity destroyer. There can be anybody. It doesn't matter what your socioeconomic level is. It doesn't matter your race, your ethnicity, age. Predominantly, who is targeted is our BIPOC, our Black and Brown and Indigenous populations. Foster care children or youth, young adults that don't have any support system. It could be parents in prison, parents on drugs. They just find themselves without a support system, and that is, you know, how somebody is targeted. And I've worked with everybody from junior high school girls all the way up to somebody that's in their 70s. And I would say also on the flip side, also on the flip side of that, I have seen traffickers from junior high school boys all the way up to 75-year-old women. And so it is honestly an equal opportunity destroyer. And anybody, I mean, as long as the internet is going into your home, you need to understand like social media safety, you know, security that you need to put on your computers, because predators are mainly recruiting off online and also video games.
Oh, yeah, I guess when kids are playing
Yes.
games and they get into lobbies with other kids,
Mm-hmm.
that happens. And you were saying even similarly that the victim can be anybody, the trafficker themselves can truly be anybody.
It's not the stereotypical HBO special where it's a certain ethnicity, driving a certain car, you know, wearing a certain jewelry. You need to completely wipe that out of your mind. I mean, because it doesn't represent the demographics, because we see all races as traffickers, and a lot of times I see it as opportunists. You know, it's somebody that doesn't have anything. It's a lot easier for them to sell their girlfriend and convince her to do that than for them to go out and get a job or hustle themselves. And then the victim is brainwashed into it. And it's really a subculture that most people do not understand. And that's why exiting is hard. There's trauma bonding, but we try to walk with any of our clients from the first point of contact to their self-determined success.
And I want to talk a little bit about what you just said about exiting, how you know, it's not the same as just walking up to a police department and saying, I need help. There are a lot of underlying things that are going on that might not make it so easy for victims to come forward. Do you want to elaborate a little bit on that?
Well, like I said earlier, you know, most victims do not realize that they are victims of human trafficking. They still have that stereotypical, you know, someone in a shipping container coming over, chained to a wall, and they don't understand what exploitation looks like. Because with a grooming process, it is slowly getting them to expand their boundaries, and being sold that it's only going to happen for a little time, and then, you know, you won't have to do this anymore, and just really being manipulated, a lot of gaslighting, you know, the chemical restraint, and then just being, you know, exploited.
When someone's coming through and know that they want to come to you and that they want help, what are some of the challenges that they face towards getting to the point where they want to hold a job or can get an apartment or something, that transition out of that life? What are the biggest challenges that those victims face?
Honestly, it is breaking a trauma bond, convincing them that they are worthy, letting them know that there are safe places that aren't biased and will not judge them, and work on building trust. And also within our organization, we make sure that we underpromise and overdeliver. If we say that we are going to be able to get you into shelter tonight, we already have that bed ready. And it is just continuing to build that trust, and then working on safety planning and goal setting, because what my idea of success could be completely different of what theirs is. And then we help them with our partners to get mental health assessments, to get drug and alcohol assessments, if they need to go into detox or they need to go into treatment. We work with partners, and then we support them while they're going through this, and then be there to pick them up when they're leaving. And then being able to, we have shelter beds that we rent, and we are currently working on housing as well. And just some of the barriers to get out is poverty. And poverty is a entrance ramp, and it is a barrier for an exit ramp. And until, that's really, it's not only a gender-based issue, it is that, a lot of times people need to have respite and be able to ground themselves, and to be not pushed and expected to go get a job and make it and do this and that. A lot of times people just need to rest. They need to figure out where they are, what they want, and work with their advocate and our partners to be able to achieve exit ramps, and what their self-determined success is.
And when we talk about these cases, as horrifying as they are, they rely so much on the victim or the public being able to recognize that something doesn't quite look right. So my first question is, why is that? Why isn't it, the way that police respond to other types of crimes is not the same that they respond to trafficking. It relies so much on the person who experienced it, or too often a member of the public recognizing that someone getting on that boat looks like they're going against their will,
right,
or something like that. What makes trafficking different? Why does it rely so much on those people as opposed to different types of crimes?
Honestly, I think it's stigma. I think a lot of people think that the individual is choosing to be in that lifestyle. And a lot of people do not, they just turn a blind eye. And I want to tell you that the definition of choice is to have multiple options. And when you do not have any choice because of poverty or homelessness or vulnerability, whatever that is, then you do not choose that. And I think that people need to be educated. They need to understand that this is something that could happen to them or their loved ones. I wish I could get to every PTA and parent groups and other groups to get that dinner table conversation happening about it. I mean, if you notice something with your teenager, they're not always taken away from home. Oftentimes somebody's picking them up at school and they're skipping school and they're being trafficked and they're being dropped off at their house at night. I mean, you need to understand when behavior changes happen within people, age-inappropriate relationship, within the grooming stage, buying gifts or love bombing. I love you really quick. We're building this dream. Oh, we're going to go here. Because you have to figure we are dealing with master manipulators and vulnerable people. I mean, just like myself, that wanted a better life, that wanted something different. And my knight in shining armor truly turned out to be a wolf in sheep's clothing. And that is the motivation of why I do this work. And it's hard work, and it's heart work. And I can't think of anything else I would rather be doing, no matter how hard it is.
So what are some signs, if I'm out and about in Seattle or Tacoma or Olympia and some of these communities like this, and what are some things that I would need to notice if I'm like, something seems a little different here. This person that this other person's walking with doesn't seem comfortable. Something like that. What would I need to notice, and what would I do in a situation like that?
Well, number one, if you see like an active trafficking situation, like somebody grabbing somebody, throwing them in a car, absolutely do not intervene. You want to collect all of the evidence, everything that you can, and take a picture, whatever, if you can safely, to be able to turn that over to law enforcement. If it's something that you just suspect, like I can tell you, I pulled into a convenience store and a white van pulled up. Well, some developmentally delayed individuals got out, and they had brooms and other cleaning supplies. Well, there was one person that just stood back. He was a big guy, and he just stood back and was smoking a cigarette and kind of yelling at him. And the guy got close to my car, and I asked him, do you get paid? Are you okay? And he shook his head like that. And so I immediately, the guy saw me talking to him. He got everybody into the van. I was able to get the license plate. I called the local police department, but I also called the National Human Trafficking Hotline. And they followed up on it, and it indeed was a labor trafficking case. So if something, I use this like really technical term, it's called TYG, trust your gut. And I mean, if something doesn't feel right, I mean, look into it a little bit more. If it's like, okay, I think that guy just pushed that girl. I mean, or there's domestic violence that is happening in that car in front of me. Or why is this teenager sitting back by the showers at a truck stop with a backpack? I mean, why is this motorhome pulled up at the casino, and there's traffic coming in and out of it? I mean, why a lot of times people think, oh, somebody might be dealing drugs out of this house, and then you look closer and they're actually trafficking women. I mean, we've had several cases. I mean, there was a penthouse in Bellevue a couple of years ago. And so multiple people cramped into one place is another sign. If you see somebody who honestly is like hanging around a bus stop, the bus comes, they walk away, and then they come back, that is a telltale sign. We have very active tracks. We have Hosmer in Tacoma. We have Aurora Avenue, and then Pack Highway South. And here in Olympia, we see most of our clients coming from ads or being exploited out of the, sadly, multitude of homeless encampments that we have, that people are often charged rent to stay there, and if they do not have the rent, then they are passed around.
So much of this is just be observant.
Be observant.
Yeah.
Be observant. Have that conversation. Look on our website. I mean, we've got great red flags. We've got great resources. I mean, have those dinner table conversations. Don't be scared of it. I mean, if somebody that you know or somebody that you see that you recognize these red flags with maybe their relationship, or just being vigilant and looking for change. Also, often people that are being exploited self-medicate with drugs and alcohol. And so a lot of times people are dismissed as they are just addicts. But you have to ask yourself, what came first, the chicken or the egg? The trauma or the self-medication, or was it the drugs and then the trauma? I lean towards the trauma. And if you look at, ACE scores and different childhood adversities, most of the individuals that have been trafficked have either been system involved within CPS, the foster care system, the juvenile justice system, the adult system, and traffickers target those that do not have a safety net.
I think I want to ask too, if someone sees this and they think that trafficking might be happening to them, or they think they might be in a situation in which they need help, is there something that you'd like to say to them?
I most definitely would encourage anybody that's out there that is being hurt or exploited, even through poverty as the mitigating factor for survival sex, or if you are under the control of a third party, there is help, there is hope, and there is a future for you. Because we are a survivor-led organization and an Indigenous-led organization, and every single person that walks through our door and every single person that works here is a living, walking miracle. And we could pull binders out of thank you letters and people that have actually made it. And so nobody is in too deep. And I believe that everybody has resilience, and we would love for them to reach out to us, the general public. If they see something, they need to be calling the National Human Trafficking Hotline, also the DHS Blue Campaign hotline as well. If anybody needs support or has a referral, they can call us, they can email us, and we have a team of people that will, honestly, we've heard over and over, that will love on them till they're able to love themselves.